Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my channel. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. This behind me is the jail in Utah where Tyler Robinson is being held right now. Tyler Robinson is the man that authorities say shot and killed Charlie Kirk, a 22-year-old man arrested 10 p.m. Thursday night. I'm getting new details. I just got all of the court documents. I'm going to go through everything that I know about Tyler Robinson at this point in this episode. Also talking to a former FBI agent with some sources about how all of this went down. Why did Tyler Robinson do this? His family says he got more into politics, that he did not like Charlie Kirk, but what would turn him into a killer? I'm getting into all of it in this edition of Brian Entin Investigates. Hey guys, so I just got the official charging documents from the court here in Utah for Tyler Robinson. The charges right now are aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, and obstruction of justice, capital first-degree felony conduct. We know that the governor is asking for the death penalty. And I just want to read you, this is the probable cause affidavit. I want to read it to you word for word so you know exactly what they are basing these charges on. It says the following information was obtained by your client from police officers, multiple video recordings, posted on social media websites, Utah Valley University campus surveillance cameras, and those who witnessed the incident. On September 10th, 2025, Charles James Kirk was at Utah Valley University, UVU, campus in Orem, Utah, for a political event. Mr. Kirk is a conservative political activist who was scheduled to speak at an event in the courtyard area of the UVU campus. The courtyard area is the west of the Lucy Center building. According to video recordings, Charles was wearing a white t-shirt and dark pants, sitting under a white canopy in a courtyard of the campus facing to the east. The event was attended by hundreds of individuals. Charles was surrounded by people with multiple individuals to his left, right, and rear and front of the canopy. Behind the canopy was a walkway used for access to various parts of the university. Charles was holding a microphone and speaking to a crowd. While speaking into the microphone, a loud gunshot was heard at approximately 12:23, and Charles appeared to have been hit in the neck. Blood was seen coming out of the left side of his neck as he fell over to his left. Charles was transported to the hospital in Orem. Charles was pronounced deceased at the hospital. Investigators reviewed the Utah Valley University surveillance cameras. While reviewing the surveillance cameras, investigators observed an individual on the rooftop of the Lucy Center building on the UVU campus at the time of the shooting. Hereafter, the unidentified individual will be referred to as suspect. Based on surveillance camera footage, suspect appears to be a white male with dark-colored hair, wearing a dark-colored hat, sunglasses, a long black sleeve shirt with a picture of an American flag and colored shoelaces. The shoes appear to be consistent with Chuck Taylor Converse-style shoes. Suspect is also carrying a dark-colored backpack on his back. Suspect walks with a distinctive gait. This is interesting here. Prior to the shooting, suspect appears to walk off with a stiff right leg prior to the shooting and at a relatively slow pace. Suspect's ability to bend his right leg appears to be restricted. Remember, there's this theory that he had the gun, the rifle, under his clothes in that TMZ video when he was walking to the shooting and, under his shirt and pants, and that's why he was limping like that, because he was not limping like that in the surveillance video. Investigators were able to track suspect's movements on the UVU campus starting at approximately 11:50 on September 10th. At approximately 11:50, a UVU surveillance camera first captured suspect walking across a grassy area north of Campus Drive at approximately 800 West. Suspect walked south through the parking lot and approached a pedestrian tunnel that runs underneath Campus Drive. Before entering the tunnel, suspect paused at the top of the stairs and pulled out what appeared to be a cell phone from his right pocket using his right hand at approximately 11:53. Suspect eventually put what appears to be a cell phone back in his right pants pocket using his right hand. Surveillance captured suspect making his way toward the Lucy Center. At approximately 12:02, suspect was recorded walking on the north side of this building, walking with the same gait as observed earlier. Suspect entered the building through a set of doors on the southeast corner and walked to a short concrete wall that separates the common area from the rooftop of the building. At approximately 12:17, suspect climbed over the short wall and appeared to crouch down on the north side of the wall on the rooftop. At approximately 12:22, suspect stood up and started running across the rooftop. The notable limp from the previous surveillance video was absent, and I noticed that too. I pointed that out in the video that I posted earlier this morning. The surveillance video of him running is very different than the video that TMZ posted, where he has a major, like limp. So then it says, suspect ran to the west side of the rooftop and appeared to scoot along the rooftop area as he got closer to the edge of the rooftop. At approximately 12:22, suspect laid down in a position consistent with a prone shooting position near the edge of the rooftop and appeared to be facing west in the direction of the courtyard area. The rooftop of the building overlooks the courtyard area where the event featured Charlie Kirk was taking place. The building is east of the courtyard area. At approximately 12:23, Charlie Kirk was shot. At approximately 12:23, surveillance shows the suspect stood up suddenly from the edge of the rooftop and sprinted north on the rooftop. Suspect ran to the northeast corner and approached the edge of the rooftop. Suspect placed a dark-colored item on the rooftop and proceeded to lower himself off the rooftop. Again, this is the video that we've seen. Suspect dropped off the rooftop onto the grass below. Suspect ran north near the parking lot to the east of the Lassie Center at approximately 12:24. Suspect ran north across the Campus Drive Road. Suspect appeared to be carrying an item whose identity is not clear from the surveillance. The area to the north of Campus Drive Road where suspect crossed over consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulge OWO, what's this?" Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, catch," up arrow symbol, right arrow symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow," and a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO," so laughing my ass off. Investigators also discovered a shoe impression on the northeast corner rooftop edge of the building. The shoe impression was located in the vicinity where the suspect climbed down from the rooftop. The shoe impression is consistent with the shoe sole characteristics, again, of Converse. So on the evening of September 11th, 2025, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. The information was relayed to Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at UVU. The information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators revealed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on the UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with the surveillance images. So this is also what I reported, that what he was wearing in the surveillance images matched up with what he was wearing when they got to the house, parents, or where he was in Washington, Utah. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed the roommate, who stated his roommate made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it, showed several messages to investigators, and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. Tyler stated a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mention that he had changed outfits. And then it says, based on the detailed evidence in the statement, I believe there's probable cause that Tyler Robinson committed the crimes, and that's pretty much it. That's the probable cause affidavit. But I wanted to read it to you guys word for word because this is exactly what they're basing the charges on. This is exactly what authorities have used to arrest Tyler Robinson in the death of Charlie Kirk. You heard them mention, right, about what the different inscriptions were on the bullet casings. We've done some research. I want to read this to you. So the notice is bulges OWO. What's this? It appears to be a reference to comments used for trolling, has roots in an online role play community, video game streaming, part of an internet meme back in 2018, ties to animated videos and furries. The hey fascist catch, that's obviously, we all know what that means. Up arrow, right arrow, and 3 down arrow symbols appears to be a reference to a sequence of controller moves that unleashes bombs on the popular video game Helldivers 2. Oh Bel Ciao, oh Bel Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao Ciao appears to be a reference to an Italian anti-fascist song during World War II, the song dedicated to resistance fighters against the Nazi troops occupying the country during World War II, described as an anti-fascist rallying cry. And then if you read this, you are gay, laughing my ass off. Perhaps the shooter's message to Kirk based on previous comments by him on the community. We don't know exactly what the, if you, I mean, obviously that just, we know what that means. If you read this, you are gay. We don't know what he meant, why he posted that in particular. But that's the latest. That's the official government document. So I know there's a lot of stuff going around on social media. This is exactly word for word why they are charging Tyler Robinson with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I'm joined now by former FBI agent Bobby Chacon. Bobby, thank you for being with me. I'm outside the jail right now, where Tyler Robinson is being held here in Utah. Uh, what do you make of the fact of the way this went down? I mean, the arrest was 10 o'clock last night. What do you know about how this happened? Apparently, it was his dad and then a family friend who sort of coordinated and alerted authorities.
Yeah, I had heard about last night. I had heard that a close family member was cooperating with the authorities, and so I knew a arrest was probably imminent when I went to bed last night. And it appears to be just that. I knew also, and I think I said this yesterday, that given those photographs that they released, someone's going to recognize this guy. Those were very good photographs. You can see his build, his gait, his general facial features, and that anybody that knew that guy was going to see that photo and go, "Oh, that's so and so." And so I knew that he'd be identified fairly quickly. Then it was a matter of finding him. Did he go on the run? Did he go back to family members? Apparently, in this situation, it looks like he went right back home, and he was where he was always going to be. And so I've heard that he might have been thinking about harming himself. His father may have talked him out of that. And so yeah, it's a bit of a different type of situation where the person didn't take their life at the scene and they didn't go on the run. And so I guess he was sitting there waiting to be found because I couldn't possibly fathom that he thought he was going to go assume his prior life and no one was going to know he did this.
What about one thing that I zeroed in on with the press conference is the roommate. Apparently, he had been messaging a roommate asking that person to go and retrieve the gun from the wooded area, and they found these messages when they went through Robinson, the suspect's phone. Um, could the roommate be in trouble? I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, first, I wish they would have had a prosecutor on stage at the press conference, which is what they normally do to kind of walk us through what are the first charges going to be, and then what later charges might be added. But they chose not to have a prosecutor on stage at the press conference. But I was struck by the same thing. I can only theorize that they saw those text messages. They went to the roommate and said, were you in cahoots with this guy? Were you conspiring? And because originally when I saw or heard about the text, it seemed like they had a plan. Like he was going to ditch the gun in a certain place and the roommate was going to go retrieve it. I can only think, since the roommate has not been charged yet, at least, that the roommate had either said, "Hey, he just texted me after I didn't know what he was going to do. I didn't know he was going to even have this attack, plan this attack. I didn't know he was going to drop the weapon. But as soon as he texted that to me, I said, "Hey, I'm not getting involved." Whatever that exchange took place, it seemed like that satisfied the authorities, or else I could see him being brought in for being at least an accessory after the fact.
The governor said at this point they don't believe anyone else is involved. I mean, do you think that's the case? Do you think they may investigate and realize he was working with someone else?
I mean, they'll certainly investigate that, and I think that at this point, they'll investigate the weapon, how he got to use the weapon. Was he a hunter? Was his family hunters? Did someone teach him to use that weapon? How proficient he was with that weapon? And they'll first look at that and see, okay, how did he get this? Because this was a deadly shot. Now, it wasn't an impossible shot, but it was a one shot kill. And so I think that they'll probably be investigating that, the weapon, his proficiency with it, who taught him to shoot. And then they'll look at Discord and they'll look at his other online communications to see. I think in this case, they probably will only find people that maybe commiserated with him, maybe cheered him on to do this if that occurred. But I don't know that they're going to find somebody that actually provided assistance to him, because it doesn't seem like he had much assistance with either the pre-planning or the post-planning. The pre-planning particularly, because that's very interesting. That, if he had been on that campus previously, and if he had been on that roof previously, and things like that.
There must have been, though, some level of planning, right? I mean, just me, even when I was out there, to know where to get up on the roof, to know where the event was going to be, to know where you could get a clear shot, to be able to get away. You'd have to imagine there was some thought put into this.
Oh yeah, there was definitely pre-event planning, and I read a profile recently, just yesterday, about my from my good friend Jim Clemente, a FBI profiler, and he said that most likely this guy did a lot of pre-planning, but very little post-attack planning, other than getting away from the scene. And in fact, it became true, just what Jim said. In fact, this guy had rage. The rage drove his anger to carry out this violent attack. But that rage doesn't, because you're not a master criminal, that rage doesn't carry on to, okay, I'm now going to plan this attack. I'm going to flee the country. I'm going to live somewhere in anonymity. It just kind of carries you through the event that's going to, you think, is going to release all this tension and this anger that you have. And it never does, of course. But I think the way their minds work, according to people like Jim and profilers, that they're all geared up and they plan to carry out the attack, but then they kind of come down from that high and they don't really do a whole lot of post-event planning, and that seems to be the case here. He did plan. He knew exactly where to go. He went up the stairwells. So that he kept himself out of the major part of the crowd. He picked a place where he wouldn't be seen by a whole lot of people. He had to have been there before, because there's no way you would know that unless you're there and put your eyes on that scene. So he did have that, probably that walkthrough, that pre-planning, how to get to the stairwell, how to get on that roof, how to get off the roof. You just don't walk over to the side of a building and decide to jump off of it. You have to know that there's a certain amount of space, that you're not going to break your leg, that there's a soft landing spot or whatever. So he had to do all of that pre-event planning. The fact that he brought a towel with him, the fact that he brought a change of clothes, it sounds like, with him. Yeah, there was a good amount of pre-attack planning on the, not as much post-attack planning, but certainly pre-attack planning.
In terms of the bullet casings, I'm just going to read this. They had several things inscriptions engraved in them. One was notices bulges OWO. What's this? If you read this, you are gay, LMAO, which is laughing my ass off. Hey, fascist, catch with an arrow symbol. There was an up arrow symbol, a right arrow symbol, and three down arrow symbols. And then there was another inscription that read, Oh, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow, Chow. Does any of this stuff stand? I mean, obviously the fascist thing, we know what that means, but does any of the other stuff stand out to you?
Well, I think the Bella Ciao thing, and I've come to learn this, was a kind of a communist mantra in World War II who were fighting the fascists, right? And so that seems to be where that came from. So it does seem like he was wrapped up in this kind of fascist ideology that we have to fight the fascists, that these people are literally Hitler and they're going to do these horrible things to us. And so he got himself into that mental space where, these kinds of people were a direct threat, to him. And, obviously that's a sick and twisted view, which wasn't true, wasn't based in reality, but that seems to be, where he was at.
Do you know anything about those arrows? Have you heard anything on
I
that?
don't.
Yeah, I
I
don't either.
don't. I'm sure our people are really poring over the interpretation of those things. And we may hear more about that when we see a charging document. And, there'll be an affidavit when he's originally charged with either information or complaint. And there'll be an affidavit in there whether or not they get into the minutia of the meaning of those etchings. I don't know. They usually don't. They usually use the bare minimum to keep him in custody, and that's probable cause. So I think that we'll wait to see what the interpretation is. That I'm sure we'll see people theorizing on that, but I don't have any particular insight into those etchings.
The governor said that the suspect, his family said he had become more political recently, and then spoke to them about a dislike for Charlie Kirk. I guess one thing that I'm hung up on, Bobby, that disturbs me more than anything is how someone, and I've just seen pictures of his family, and I don't know much about them yet, but they look like nice people. I mean, just based on the pictures that I've seen, they live in rural Utah. A lot of the people here in Utah are really nice. I guess I'm troubled by how someone goes from, maybe a normal kid to, not liking or getting into politics, not liking Charlie Kirk to where you would want to kill someone, just because you disagree with them. Will the FBI look into all of that? I mean, it seems like bigger picture, we need to understand how that happens.
Yeah, well, there's kind of two teams. There's a team of FBI agents that are working on this case, so to speak, and what they need to prosecute this case and make sure they get a conviction. And that's a very careful process. Beyond that, you'll have the behavioral analysis unit where the profilers are housed at Quantico, doing a deeper dive into the mentality just to see if there's anything they can advise. So they put out these advisories to school districts, to community leaders, and things like that, and say, hey, look, this is what we found, and this is how you might want to counter it. Now, I mean, we've talked about it before. This is the rhetoric that's been ratcheted up. I mean, and even after this, attack, we've seen politicians, like J.D. Pritzker and people like that, that are seem to be, instead of lowering the rhetoric, actually adding to it. And so it's really about ratcheting down the rhetoric, because what these people do, what this kid probably did was he probably consumed a lot of stuff online, and there's just such hateful rhetoric. When you see the word fascist, that's a very extreme word to use to describe somebody. And it's really kind of hypocritical of this shooter to say, I'm going to kill this guy because he's filled with hate, when murdering someone in cold blood is the epitome of hate.
Yeah.
A father and a husband. And so it's the ultimate hypocrisy to say, I'm going to murder this guy because he's so filled with hate. Well, what are you filled with when you can put a bullet in someone who's not doing anything violent to anybody else or hurting anyone? It's just his words. And that's why I consider this, because our free speech is at the foundation of our democracy. I consider this a threat to our democracy. When you start killing people because you disagree with their positions, I mean, that's a direct threat on our democracy. Charlie Kirk was simply going back to the old days where we used to have two people in a town square stand up on literal soapboxes and debate the issues of the day. That's what we do. That's democracy. And if you watch Charlie's videos, you see him let people talk, and he's pondering that what they're saying, and he's kind of putting his response together in his mind. You can see his thought process, but he's letting the person talk. Then he responds. Then he lets the person respond to their response. He was very respectful in that way and giving people these platforms that they normally don't have. He was the only one out there doing it. And believe me, he could have taken a high-priced, a high-paying contributor job on some network where he's hidden behind a camera, but he was out there among people, and he was doing kind of democracy's business. He was letting people talk. He was giving them those microphones that they wouldn't have had a platform to talk elsewhere. And so to take this guy out, to me, our democracy is a lot weaker today than it was before he was killed.
Yeah, it just seems like, and I've covered so many of the shootings, but lately it just something feels different. This one obviously just makes you feel terrible and concerned about our country. But even a couple of weeks ago, I was in Minneapolis with the kids killed in the Catholic Church. That one just felt heavier and different. I was also in Minnesota when the two Democratic lawmakers were killed, assassinated basically. And I mean, the list goes on and on. Um, does it feel different to you right now? I mean, we've had school shootings forever. We've had awful things for like the last couple of decades, but I don't know, something about this moment to me. I mean, could this be like a 9/11 wake-up call kind of thing, do you think?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because of all the people that I've seen celebrating Charlie Kirk's death online. I mean, horrific people. And not just like teenagers. I mean, I saw an anesthesiologist in Miami say things. I saw a school teacher in Virginia, and these people are celebrating. Good for him. He got what he deserved. I mean, this is proliferating, and that's what scares me. That's why I think this is different. The number of people who almost immediately came out celebrating this man's death, this man's horrific murder in broad daylight in front of millions of people, the amount of people that are not afraid to put their face on social media to a video where they're celebrating this horrific murder, that's different to me. That's the level up. I think that's a level we haven't seen before. Yeah, we all came together on 9/11, and I was there and I felt it. But that was a different type of attack. Someone attacked us as a whole, as a nation. Here, our nation is divided. We're attacking ourselves from within. And I think that what really scares me is the level of people and the amount and the level of people who kind of are celebrating this. And like I said,
Yeah.
doctors and school teachers and things like that. These aren't political, junkies. These are people out there holding responsible positions in society, and they're celebrating this death.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not comparing Charlie Kirk's assassination specifically to 9/11. I just meant like sort of the bigger picture of there's just been a lot of awful ones lately in
Yeah. Oh,
months.
absolutely. Even
But
like
sort of the
Minneapolis, like you
culmination
said.
of them all, you know?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, and I want them to look, not that the etchings were ideologically similar, but the fact that he etched into his bullets, did he take kind of a call from that Minneapolis shooter, not ideologically, but just from a methodology standpoint? Did he, but we usually see that when the person thinks they're going to be killed in the shootout or plans on taking their own life during the attack, and they want their message out there, right?
Mm.
And that may be what he did because he left the rifle behind with that ammunition, with the etchings on that. So that was the message he wanted to get. If he was never caught, we were going to have his last message, or the shooter's message etched on those bullets. And so I think that if he didn't plan on getting caught, he wanted to leave that as his message.
What do you think about the death penalty in this case? I mean, the governor made very clear even before they announced the arrest that they were gonna seek the death penalty. They actually have firing squad in Utah. It's one of the states where they do firing squad. And you're just talking about the bigger picture of what's wrong with our country and the more and more people doing these kinds of things. Do you think that even has an impact?
I do, but I think it can have an impact in both directions. The people that are sympathetic to his cause, if down the road he gets, executed by a firing squad, that could light a fire under them even more. You know, I agree with the death penalty in some cases, not most cases, but some cases. I don't know about this case yet. I don't know enough about the case to offer that opinion, but yes, it would give a certain amount of satisfaction to, okay, this person did this deed, they need to be punished for it, and that's the punishment that the people of Utah have decided. Um, but then again, I could also see, it also kind of making him more of a martyr, to the cause, and that worries me as well.
Yeah, I wondered about that with Luigi Mangione because the feds are seeking the death penalty with him in New York, and he's already
Exactly.
become this like hero to a lot of people, and I wonder if it almost backfires.
Yeah, that's my wonder, and that's exactly the point I was trying to articulate. Yes, I think that, yeah, it can sometimes, put these people in the martyr position, which is not what you want, because that's going to draw more people to the cause, and it's going to draw more people to, violent activity.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, Bobby. Thank you very much.
Sure.